Hi, I'm Claudia Gere, and I am so excited that you're here with me today. And I'm excited for me because I love sharing what I know to help people discover that it might be a whole lot easier to write a book than you think. So let's get started. Some long time ago, I worked in high tech for a Fortune 50 computer company, a great place to work. And then a much smaller computer company bought us out. My new boss at corporate headquarters in Houston called me just 2 weeks before Christmas. Hello, Claudia. I want you to fire your staff. We can do so much more with your headcount and budget. Yeah, a $4.6 million budget. But I couldn't imagine firing our 40 writers and staff worldwide and just 2 weeks before Christmas. 40 people without a job 2 weeks before Christmas. I couldn't do it. It wasn't right for them. It wasn't right for the company. Sales needed my program to close business. Executives needed my program for proof points and presentations. So I reached out to a senior VP I'd worked with for a lot of years, and he rescued my program and my staff, but I knew I was toast. I knew I wasn't going to last long. And a few months later, there I was on vacation in the Caribbean on an island in a hammock strung between two palm trees, just feet from the ocean, editing my father-in-law's book. We called him Opa. Everyone kept stopping by and saying, "Are you crazy? What are you doing editing a book on vacation?" No, this isn't work. I love this. Opa's book is about the Berlin airlift. It took place after World War II when Russia surrounded Berlin and the Allies flew in everything the Berliners needed to survive for over a year. 2.3 million tons of cargo. A cargo plane landing every 3 minutes. Opa was one of those daring pilots. At every Berlin airlift anniversary celebration, he was treated like royalty, wined and dined, applauded in ceremonies, and lauded by schoolchildren. What Opa noticed was all of the accolades went to the pilots like him. He knew if the Berlin women, cold and half-starved, hadn't gone out to fill the potholes in the runway, they couldn't land. They needed the crews to unload the cargo and in the control towers. So Opa wrote The Unheralded to celebrate everyone. I felt what it meant for him to get his book out into the world. Swinging in that hammock by the ocean? Talk about discovering your passion. Not only did I know everything about bringing his book to market, I loved everything about doing it. The light bulb went off. I bet people would pay me to do this. My new career was born. So, despite a few detours along the way, I launched my aspiring author's business and never looked back. Over the past 20 plus years, I've worked on hundreds of books in every aspect of writing, editing, publishing, and marketing. First, I just helped people self-publish their books, then coached people to write their books, and for some, as a ghostwriter. And when one client asked me, "Why can't you be my literary agent? You know more about my work than anyone." I became a literary agent, helping first-time authors get contracts with major publishers. And working closely with publishers means that I come at the task of writing a book from the perspective of publishers. What will be successful? What will support the author's goals? USA Today and the Association of American Publishers conducted research to find out how many people want to write a book. What percentage do you think their study showed? 2%? 40%? More? If you want to write a book, you're not alone. 82%. 82%! If so many people want to write a book, why is it that only a small fraction of a fraction actually do? What is it that holds so many people back? What's stopping you? Nearly everyone I have worked with gives me one or more of these three reasons. Reason one, content. How could I ever come up with enough to say to fill a book? It takes a lot of words to write a book. Reason two, time. I'm so buried with everything I have to do now. You should see my to-do list. How can I make time to write a book? Reason three, what can I say that's new or different? There are so many books already written on my topic. What could I possibly say that's interesting? Or why would people buy a book written by me? Are any of those reasons you've said to yourself? In the next 30 minutes, we're going to look at 3 easiest ways to write your book in a way that addresses these issues and in ways that will help you get creative about how you choose to write your book. Because being an author makes you an authority, commands more respect, and you know that it is an investment in your business because it's a way to take your business to the next level. And it puts you in a position to offer what you know to help those who need it. How long are you going to think about writing your book? Why not write it sooner rather than later? Are you ready to think creatively about how you might write your book? First, I want to share a story with you. I had an epiphany about writing books a number of years ago. A panel of famous authors were speaking in New York City at Book Expo. That's the largest North American trade show for publishers and booksellers. One of my all-time favorite events was a Thursday morning author breakfast panel with best-selling novelist John Grisham, former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice, and TV show host Jon Stewart. One of my most memorable moments came during the Q&A following their presentations. A young gentleman asked, "Could you impart some wisdom to aspiring authors about what makes an author successful?" John Grisham answered first, "You have to write at least 1 page every day. You're not taking it seriously until you write at least 1 page. Sometimes it'll take you 30 minutes. Other times it might take you 5 hours. But that commitment, that's what makes you an author." Condoleezza Rice spoke next. "I agree with John. You have to write every day, but you need to have a lot of writing because you'll want to throw some away. I write best in the morning when I'm freshest." Then Jon Stewart. I have to disagree with these esteemed authors. You hire 10 guys and tell them, "Go write a book." They bring it to you. "It's not good enough. Make it better." They bring it again. "You're fired. You're fired. You're fired." That's how you write a book. 10 people to write his book. That's an expensive but much easier way for Jon Stewart. The alternative proposed by Grisham and Rice, though, sounds grueling. But isn't that the way that most authors write their books? Sitting behind a computer, banging it out, 1 page at a time. And there it was. One thing I've learned Having worked with so many authors, there are as many different ways to write books as there are authors. And some ways are far easier than others. If you want to write a book, find the way that's easiest for you. Figure out how you will write your book, and you will be one step closer to getting it done. So, what if you don't have enough to say to fill a book? Is that what's stopping you? How about getting other people to help you? How about using other people's content? For easiest way one, write down interviews. Easiest way one, interviews. I learned nearly everything I know about interviewing from poet Robert Bly. You might not know about him, but in the early 70s, he was a rock star. Look at that picture of him. He filled the same University of Massachusetts stadium as Janis Joplin, Simon and Garfunkel, and the Righteous Brothers. After Bly's poetry reading, I had an opportunity to interview him for a local newspaper. I was so excited, and I was sweating bullets. The first few words gushing out of my mouth told him that I didn't know what I was doing. He looked at me so kindly. Have you interviewed very many people? No. Well, how about taking a minute to talk about interviewing? Then he shared with me some eye-opening interview techniques, how to get different information, how to dig deeper. You want me to share them with you? Tip number 1, do your research. Learn as much as you can about the person before the interview, even hobbies. For example, how does your interest in whitewater kayaking influence your willingness to take risks in your business? Are there other people close to the individual you can interview beforehand for stories and perspectives, insider information? Now with social media, it's even easier to get personal insights. Tip 2. For a reporter, the purpose of an interview is to get a story, not to make friends. What I've learned is you can stir up some controversy and still be nice. Because sometimes you get the best information when you challenge the person. You get their best thinking rather than those pat answers that they give everyone else. Tip 3, ask for motivation. How have your views changed over the years? Why have you changed your strategy? Why do you think what you do is important? A fourth tip, my favorite tip, and the one that has had the most influence on my interviewing. I learned to say the simple phrase, tell me more. When people answer your question, lean in and say, tell me more about that. It shows you're interested in what they're saying. They will dig deeper and expand on the first answer. The crazy thing is, you can repeat the phrase time and time again, and they don't notice. But each time they dig deeper, reflect more, reveal a bit more, until in the end they will say, I think that's it. I don't think I have anything more to say about that. But meanwhile, you have much more information than if you had stopped at the first answer. Original interviews give you great content and take away some of those pesky concerns. The need for saying something new, something different, something people are going to be intrigued to read. Everyone comes at problems from their own experience, their own perspective. People will receive reinforcement from similar experiences and new insights with the differences. You do have something important to say when you bring people together to tell their stories. You can easily create great content. The length and number of interviews will give you all the content you need to fill a book. It can be faster to write a book using interviews. Good interviews will lead to a book that practically writes itself. So you will have enough time. No excuses. There are many formulas you can use to structure your interviews and your book. You want a common theme. Here are just a few. The road to success. First, tell your own story about your road to success, and put it first, by the way. Also, for each interview, perhaps write a short introduction that characterizes the person's success, their business, or describes the person in some way through your eyes or experience. Then at the end of each interview, capture a few highlights as a summary, keys to success, points to remember. Think how valuable, encouraging, or even inspirational a book about their road to success could be for someone contemplating starting his or her own business. And what better way to showcase your expertise? Another formula is lessons learned. Ask questions about their lessons learned starting a business, like what was the hardest challenge you faced starting your business? What was the biggest mistake you made and how did you recover from it? And what did you learn? What do you know now that you wish you'd known then? Another model explores a person's influences. Ask about who helped them get started, who helped them along their way, what advice were they given, and under what circumstances. Did they have mentors, coaches, or other influences? Say you're a small business consultant. What if you interviewed 5 to 10 successful entrepreneurs, people you know, or even better, people you've helped through your consulting? If you do have the writing skills, you can turn the interviews into case studies. Edit the interview, take out the questions. And there's a simple formula for case studies. Ask your customers to describe their business, the industry, what they do, and how. Then describe the business problems they were having. Talk about the changes you made and how that improved their situation, how you helped them solve their problems. Then wrap up the case study with a lessons learned section or next steps or success factors. Learning from other people's problems is a book with value. You can create an entire book out of expert interviews. Pick a topic that's in your wheelhouse. Are you beginning to see how you can do this? You can also use interviews to add content to a short book. We did that for David Shepard's book, That Movie in Your Head, Guide to Improvising Stories on Video. He needed to make his book longer, so he interviewed 3 people who had used his improvisation techniques to make a movie. Those interviews showed readers how his techniques worked and how others had been successful using them. When I ghostwrite books, they are almost entirely based on interviews. Tomorrow Miles is from Brazil. Her native language is Portuguese. And even though she is a dynamic speaker and consultant, as a productivity expert, she realized that it was more time and cost effective to hire a ghostwriter. Her entire book, The Secret to Peak Productivity, was based on my interviews with her and included a case study with one of her clients. International speaker and trainer on innovation, Stephen Shapiro, wrote a book called Goal-Free Living, based on interviews with people from all walks of life. He looked at the common attributes of people who were happy and successful and how they got there. His book is based on interviews, but it doesn't feel like a compilation of interviews. Wiley published it, and Oprah featured it as one of her favorites in O magazine. I've learned that traditional publishers don't like compilation books, collections of stories. They're harder to sell. And that's important to keep in mind if you are looking for a traditional publisher. But if you can do what Steve did, translate those interviews into a carefully structured book with a novel hook, then you will have a much better chance of getting a traditional publisher. Here's something important. For professional journalists, editing interviews is a no-no. You can get fired for it. But for you, putting together interviews shared by those colleagues and experts who have agreed to be part of your book, you want to put them in their best light. What I've found is people like to look smart. So go ahead and correct the grammar, put that missing word back in. Take out words or sentences that are unnecessarily repetitive. You don't need to point out the places they misspeak. Just don't change the meaning or their voice. When they review their finished interview, they will appreciate how smart you've made them sound. And that's important. Some authors I've worked with have told me, "Oh, I don't think that will work. I don't think my clients would talk about the mistakes they made." When you show how the outcome makes your client look smart, yeah, for hiring you, in every case, the clients have not only willingly given approval, but are so gracious and congratulatory about their experience, the authors have been overwhelmed. If you launch a book project yourself, say by interviewing your clients, then you're going to need project management skills. You'll have to contact individuals and sell them on the project, give them review guidelines and deadlines, get their permission to use the final interviews or case studies. You'll need to transcribe the interviews, edit them, or hire an editor, and write your contributions or analysis, and so on. Does a book based on interviews sound good to you? Are you a naturally curious person? Someone who likes to ask, how do you do that? Tell me your story. Do you find it easy to listen, easy to engage people in conversation? Are you the project manager type? Then easiest way one, interviewing, might be your best solution. For all of you introverts out there screaming, "No, I hate talking to people," stay tuned. There's something for you too. But first, easiest way two. What if you don't have time to write a book? Maybe easiest way two will be the easiest for you. I bet a good percentage of you like to talk more than you like to write. I'm not saying that you're necessarily a professional speaker, though some of you are, but someone, the way I think of it, who likes to speak for a living. Maybe you're a trainer or a consultant that exchanges information with your clients. Tell me your problems and I'll help you with solutions. Maybe you're a manager, someone who needs to share strategies, mentor your employees, or run meetings. Would you rather pick up a phone to share your ideas with someone rather than writing an email? If you like to talk, then easiest way two might be the best way for you. Write down for easiest way two, speaking. Do you know how fast you speak? When you create a script for a presentation or a talk, do you have any sense of how many words it should be for a 30-minute talk, a 45-minute talk? I speak roughly 6,000 words in an hour-long presentation, and that's average, about 100 words per minute. 6,000 words of a carefully crafted talk, when transcribed, will create a 20-page chapter. Let me say that one more time. 1 hour of talking equals 6,000 words, creates 20 pages. And that's the maximum number of pages you would want in a chapter. Many times you can create 2 or 3 chapters out of one talk, or many chapters out of a training session. Most chapters are between 5 and 20 pages. And then you're going to add about 20 pages of front and back matter beyond the core chapters. If you do the math, approximately 5 hours of training or speaking, and you'll have a book. Maybe speaking your book will be easier than writing it. That's how I worked with Jerry Tabio and Sally Beamer, writing Creating Demand, Generate Cool Custom Marketing Ideas. Jerry and Sally have a methodology that shows people how to generate creative marketing ideas, not exclusively, but primarily for companies that don't necessarily have creative people working for them. They have this process nailed down. Jerry and Sally deliver these instructions over and over in their 3-day workshop and in client consulting sessions. If they'd had to sit and write their book from scratch, it never would have happened. That's what they say. Having a draft as a basis to work from and an editor was a huge start. Think about speaking your book by transcribing your training sessions, your workshops, teleseminars, or speeches, your client consulting sessions, recording with their permission, of course. And we don't have time to go into all of the things you need to do to make your talks a book, but can you see how much easier it is to work with a draft than starting from scratch, staring at a blank computer screen? What do you know or teach or answer questions about? What stories do you tell to illustrate your points? Or even what instructions do you give your staff that you're tired of saying over and over again? Very early on in my author consulting career, I recorded all of my client calls, with their permission, of course. I realized that I was constantly repeating myself every time I explained how to effectively open chapters, explaining citing sources, how to use dialogue in a nonfiction book. I started to capture those conversations and turn them into articles and cheat sheets. Conversations with book writing clients became my aspiring authors program, and that turned into a manual and resource guide, something I continue to expand and update. It's now around 300 pages. I created a 1-day workshop based on the manual, transcribed the workshop, which has evolved into my 6-week Aspiring Authors program. There are so many ways to record yourself available. Meet with your clients on Zoom or one of the other recording platforms. You can use your smartphone or a small digital recorder. So record whenever you deliver content to your clients or even your staff. So many of the people I have worked with don't even know what they know. Doesn't everyone know that? Think about how you do what you do. There are many voice recognition software applications. Currently, I'm using Otter AI. There are a lot of errors, but you get quick transcription to choose what you want to edit. There's dictation software. Dragon Naturally Speaking has been around a long time, and many people find dictating their book is easiest. You can hire someone. Rev.com is popular, and they will do the transcription with real human beings. You can also use Google Docs to dictate directly to a document. So record whenever you deliver content to your clients with their permission or even your staff. So many of the people I work with don't even know what they know. Doesn't everyone know that? Think about how you do what you do. Is easiest way to easiest for you? Do you speak, train, or have the content for a book? Maybe you're a born storyteller who can tell stories from your own personal experience and then pull out those nuggets of wisdom or lessons learned. By the way, that's what's going to make your book unique. Your stories, your experiences, your insights. Maybe you can dictate while you're working out on a treadmill. A few months of good workouts, and you could have your book drafted. If you record yourself giving a workshop, will it be easier for you to delete what's not relevant? Or will having all that material to sort through overwhelm you? Do you like the role of editor over writer? Will speaking your book be easiest for you? There's one important caution. If you choose to speak your book, you'll need to take out the redundancy. Speakers repeat a lot. We want to drive points home. Repetitive in a book, though, can be very irritating to readers. And now, for you introverts screaming, no! Well, there are still other easier ways of writing a book. Maybe easiest way 3 is more suited to you. Who listening has offered advice to someone? Of course you have. People love to give advice. How have you helped someone? As a sports coach, helping someone relieve stress, someone who wants to improve their eating habits or lose weight, someone getting a divorce, buying insurance, help with a business decision. What is it that makes us love giving advice? Here are the most common answers. Giving advice makes us feel useful, helpful. It can even make us feel important, needed. Yes, we like to give advice. Not all advice is good advice. And okay, not everyone appreciates receiving our advice. And that's a good point. When we offer someone advice, we're establishing a relationship, and there's a question of trust. We don't always like advice. And frankly, some people can be downright annoying. Do you know somebody like that? I bet you do. One of the ways to offer advice in a less personal way and a way that is more likely to be appreciated is by offering a tip. And using tips is easiest way 3. Write down for easiest way 3 tips. When you give someone a tip, people feel they can take it or leave it without feeling they're judging or hurting your feelings. To the contrary, it implies that you care enough to offer something of value for free. On the other hand, the word tip has the connotation of insider information. Who passes up a tip for saving money or saving time? It's not easy to dismiss a tip. People like tips. To me, it also conjures up the word tidbit, small bits of information, easy to digest and use. Who says you have to write a long book? You can write a short book. It still qualifies you as an author. Easiest Way 3 does take writing a very short but powerful book. Write a tips booklet and people will see you as an authority on your topic. And you know tips. These are the questions you answer every day in your business. What's great about using tips is they are so flexible. You can offer as many or as few as you want. You can use them in so many different ways. I think everyone who is in a service-based business should use them. If you're looking at websites to choose a real estate broker, wouldn't you be more likely to choose the one that offers a free ebook entitled Tips for Preparing Your House for Sale Faster for More Money, or Tips for Buying a New Home? It can also work for products. If you sell artisan soaps, you might have tips that help people to decide to buy your products, 5 tips to selecting fragrances, soap buying tips, or skincare tips. Something that demonstrates you care about the people you're selling to. You can scale the number of tips to a wide variety of uses. Create a small laminated card with your top 3 tips. A small booklet from 10 tips filling 8 pages to 100 filling 40. Some years ago, Paulette Ensign introduced one of the simplest yet most powerful ways to offer tips. I call it her golden tip formula. And here is the formula that Paulette Ensign came up with to construct the perfect tip. First, number your tip. Next, write a compelling, declarative statement that tells people what to do or believe. And then, write 1 to 3 short sentences to expand on and explain the statement. I wrote a tips booklet, Name Your Book, 94 Nonfiction Title Tips. I got a bit creative because these are tips on book titles. So in addition to the 3 elements Paulette suggests, I included an example of a book title that illustrates the tip. Here is an example of one of the tips found in my booklet. The first part of the title tip is the tip number. Let's say number 1. Then a declarative sentence, which is a statement like a command. Cure a headache. The explanation for cure a headache reads, people will buy a book to avoid the pain from someone else's experience. The book title example I found to illustrate the tip, How to Avoid Marrying a Jerk. That's a headache you want to avoid. Someone out there is probably saying, it's too late. Who listening thinks you could use a tips booklet that your prospects would benefit from? Even if it's just 5 tips as a downloadable ebook on your website to start, you can do this. This is one of the easiest ways that you can start your book. And Amazon has made it easy to publish an ebook so you can be a published author. If that sounds too complicated, you can just have a downloadable PDF of your ebook on your website. When I work with first-time authors and they tell me they don't have time to write a whole book, I suggest they write a very short one first. You are still an author and you get to test your product. If people like your tips, you can always expand it into a larger book. You can also repurpose the content. How about tweeting the short declarative sentence, then leading the Twitter followers back to your website for a blog post, something that expands on the topic, and that will slowly expand the information in your book. You can use each tip as a blog post for your newsletter, or conversely, you can start a newsletter and release 1 tip each week. At the end of a year, you'll have 52 tips. People ask me often, why would someone buy a book from you when you've published everything on your blog or newsletter? The secret is to organize the tips in your book so there's a logical flow. People will pay to get everything in one place and to have your information organized. You can choose to write a tips booklet in small chunks over time if you prefer to work in short bursts. Or you can draft it in one sitting, doing a brain dump. I drafted my tips booklet on a cross-country plane flight. So you want to get a start on being an author. Often tackling a small book first is the way to go. You can always expand it later. Add examples, lessons learned, and stories, and watch it grow. Once you have the framework, you can build it over time. Is easiest way 3, writing a tips booklet, the easiest way for you? Remember, I promised a good solution if you're an introvert, and also if you don't want to write a lot. These are just 3 of the easiest ways to write a book, and there are so many more to explore if none of these ways is right for you. Are you beginning to see that this is something you can do? Yes, you can write a book. You can do it. Do you want to get your book done? So, how can you get started? How can you write your book and write it now? If you want to avoid the mistakes and take an easier, faster, more professional path to getting your book done, let me help you. I hope that today has given you some different ideas for writing your book. And by the way, if none of these ideas work for you, I've told you before, there are plenty more. So don't let me discourage you. It's all about moving forward and finding what works best for you. And saying that, I want to offer you an opportunity to continue on your path to writing your book. My Quick Start program, Aspiring Author Roadmap, will help you define and clarify your book project so you can move forward with confidence. This is a self-paced program, just 5 tutorials that lead you step by step through all of the decisions you need to make before you write your book. You want to be sure your book will be successful before you write it. Tutorial 1 takes you through all of the steps to make sure you write the right book, that your goals are clear, and the book you write will support your goals. Examples and exercises will help you identify your purpose and goals for writing your book. Tutorial 2, you will apply several different decision-making strategies to list and choose the best topic for your book. Tutorial 3 leads you through the same process I use with the authors I've worked with to develop their book's business plan, the only way you can be sure your book will support your goals. This topic answers the 6 questions publishers ask to be sure a book will be a success. The answers to these questions will also give you the foundation for your book proposal. That's the document you need for those of you who want to find an agent and a traditional publisher. You'll create the hook so you can succinctly say what your book's about and test your idea with friends and colleagues. Will they say, good for you? Or, wow, that sounds interesting. Tell me more. What will make your book stand out from other books in your field, but still find the right audience for you? Who is the right audience for you, and how and where will you reach them? Tutorial 4. One of the most important things you can do before you write your book is find out who your competitors are. But more than that, you can figure out what your book will offer that the others don't. What is similar to other successful books on the market, but also what is unique about your book? And even more important, you'll see that books on your topic are successful. And if they aren't, you'll have to figure out why, so you can avoid those pitfalls or avoid writing a book that can't be successful in today's market. Tutorial 5. You will set goals and establish your own expectations. Instill self-confidence and establish your commitment to becoming an author. You'll have your book topic matched to your goals. You'll have your proof that it will be successful, and you'll commit to your writing plan. You'll have no excuse except to start your book. All this to get you to your ultimate goal of having a professional book, the right book to meet your goals, of being the go-to expert, finally getting the recognition you deserve for your knowledge and skills. Sounds great, Claudia. What's my investment? How much is it going to cost me? Okay, and this is where I'm supposed to tell you how much everything would cost if sold separately, total it up to a staggering fee. We all know that drill. I want to make this a no-brainer decision for you. The real bonus is you get the same training and coaching at a fraction of the cost when I worked one-on-one with authors. Right now, 97 bucks. Okay, and here's where I create scarcity, telling you you might miss out on this great deal if you don't sign up right now. And well, you might. People have paid much, much more for the information in this program. Why just $97? I want to help more people write successful books. And I want to see the attendance for this program grow with your referrals once you've completed the program. I want to make this affordable so more people get started writing their books. But not just any book, the right book for you and your goals. A book you know will be successful. Head over to aspiringauthorroadmap.com and get on track to write the right book. Once you sign in, you can review the video tutorials and do the exercises all at your own pace. And another feature, you won't be working alone. For the first 100 people to sign up, you will get 30 minutes of my time to ask me anything. 30 minutes one-on-one with me to answer your most pressing questions. And you will be amazed what we can accomplish in 30 minutes. And you can schedule the time whenever it will bring the most value to you. Head on over right now. It's so easy to let time slide by, wishing you were an author. I hope that today has given you different ideas for writing your book, ways that can make it easier for you, or maybe once you have a clear idea for your book, it will be easier to sit down at your computer and write it that way. Don't let anything discourage you. It's all about moving forward and finding what works best for you. So thank you so much for taking the time to join me for 3 easiest ways to write your book. I hope you take the next step to becoming the author that you want to be.